There is a specific addition to this episode which has got me very, very excited. Hello, everyone. Welcome to No Drama, Just Movies, and we are back this week with another TV review. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned with all the content that we produce each and every week in the world of TV and movies. My name is Cameron. Well, clearly, bold guys are not Vanessa's type, Kelly Smith, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague here.
I'm Phil Caramel Corn Corwin.
That's right. If you haven't guessed it by now, but of course you would have based on the title of this video, we are here to review none other than episode 4 of Daredevil Born Again on Disney Plus. Okay, so we are nearly at the halfway point of this season because I think there's 9 episodes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I'll kick it off by saying this. I still did enjoy this episode. It still feels like we not a ton happened in regards to like getting to the meat of what's going on, but it feels like we definitely are building. Don't get me wrong, there has been a good bit of a build. But I'm not exactly complaining either because I still did enjoy this episode. I still enjoy these characters. I enjoy seeing them in their habitats. I enjoy seeing them do what they were doing. And nothing was exactly like necessarily boring for me. Like it was still compelling. It's just that we need the more meat on the bone, just a little bit. But I feel it's coming. There is a specific addition to this episode which has got me very, very excited.
More than one
And,
edition, right?
well, we'll get to that actually,
We'll get to
because
that.
for me, his name rhymes with I don't know. Well, I was gonna say Jews, but Q's or
Kind of.
glues or whatever, but if you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so that was the main thing that got me very excited about this episode, specifically. But we will get to that. But what was your thoughts overall of this episode?
Probably like you, like it wasn't boring, but it's and it is moving, but it is moving quite slowly. It is moving a little bit too slowly for me. There's a bit of I don't know, because it's not filler. It's not so much filler. It's just like stuff happens and it takes a while to really happen. But it's happening. So yeah. I think this one I felt a little bit felt the most like stuff was happening slowly. And I felt the most like lost at times. Because I think like it just suddenly drops us into a lot of things like Frank being back. We have a Punisher again. And I was sitting there like, wait a minute, he knows where Frank is? And like, what happened there? And like, where did we leave Frank? And so felt like I was like, oh, should I go back and watch the other 3 seasons before to understand what's going on here? Because like
Again?
yes.
I mean, they were great.
True, there was.
Yeah.
But it was also 3 seasons, and I don't think I have the time to watch all of that before
Yeah.
going into the next episode of this. Maybe I should have done my homework.
Yeah, I mean, let me hop on that, right? Because after the finale, after the final shot, excuse me, of episode 3, when White Tiger Hector gets assassinated, there was all the feels and the excitement. Oh my gosh, Frank finally, he's making his return. I've seen some of the discourse regarding this scene, that whole scene that takes place obviously in this episode online, regarding with Matt and Frank. The scene didn't hit me, I think, as much as I'm seeing it hit other people. I was really excited to see Frank, and as you said, Matt clearly knows where he is. Can't remember if that was shown to us at the end of Daredevil season 3 or if that was shown to us at the end of the Punisher show. I don't even know.
That's that one as well, which I completely missed. So
Yeah, but I was enjoying, as he's making his way to Frank, and he sees Frank, and it's kind of like Frank's, even his outlook towards the imposters is kind of like, eh. And as a result, my kind of, and that's how I kind of felt about this scene. It, you know, for the, even though I was very excited to see Frank, it
Hmm.
kind of took a dip for me. Like, don't get me wrong, I appreciated the scene and the aim, you know, with Frank's objective being, you know, to actually get, you know, Matt to really come to terms with what's happening here and to actually truly, you know, just take this mask off, no pun intended, and actually, you know, come to terms with how he's feeling and what's happening and be the true Red that he knows he is.
Can I ask something about that? So
Yeah.
they're talking and and Frank's like, say his name. Are they talking about Hector or are they talking about Foggy? Or are they kind of
Foggy.
talking about both?
I thought the same thing at first, but then I think it's clear that he's talking about Foggy by the time we get to
Um,
the latter parts. I also thought it was Hector. For at some
yes.
point, I was like, wait, is there some other kid that we forgot about that Matt knew that got assassinated, maybe? But no, it is Foggy,
It's
which is interesting, you know.
it
Yeah,
took me a second to get that, which is like I guess another way of like I'm dropping me into something and I'm trying to catch up and it just felt like I'm yeah, thinking about a little bit too much and
but
not
and I think that's
enjoying
yeah. But I
the.
think that's part of the issue with the scene because
Hmm.
we wasn't being dropped into something. Like it genuinely was about Foggy, right? And it's like, but I think that the way that it's written and the way that it was shown, like it kind of did make it more confusing than it actually needed to
I
be.
mean, because
And
he does go there because he's looking for Hector's killer. He's not looking for
yeah,
his killer, right? So
yeah,
I was connecting that to Foggy, to
yeah, to Hector.
to Hector. I'm getting my
Yeah,
confused here as well. But
yeah.
yeah, and then suddenly they're talking about well, Foggy. I'm like,
Yeah, and then
ah,
that's when I think you realize that they are actually talking mainly about Foggy, even though he
hmm,
came there about Hector. Yeah. The scene just didn't hit for me. It was missing something for me. I think that it was a little bit convoluted. You know, and by the time that the scene finished, like I still didn't quite get an idea of where we're going. Like, are you still trying to find out like who specifically was the person that killed Hector? You know, what does Frank want to do? Like that none of that is clear.
hmm,
And I would have wished that it was. And then that's why, weirdly enough, the thing that while most people are probably talking about the inclusion of Frank being, you know, the bit that really stuck out for them, for me, the bit that really stuck out for me was Muse. Like, that's the part of the show where I lit up because, you know, though I'm a big crime fan, right? And I mean, I'm sorry, but the idea of Daredevil mixed in with mystery, crime, drama, thriller, like that is amazing for me. And those like even that scene where Matt goes to the location where Hector was shot, and
hmm.
you know they kind of go into his kind of heightened senses kind of mode, and he finds out where the bullet casing was, and even just the music with that and how that then links into the scenes that we see with Muse, walking into the lair and draining his victims' bloods, and this idea of a serial killer villain.
Hmm.
In this is, I think this is what I'm waiting for. This is really the thing that got me excited. It is interesting, obviously, that we're having him introduced now, 4 episodes in, but I think it could have actually been quite interesting, of the idea if he had been sprinkled in from the get-go. And I'm not saying fully introduced, but the idea of, I don't know, have you seen Mindhunter on Netflix?
Tried.
You try, okay, but I won't go into this big Mindhunter thing. But for example, for those who have seen Mindhunter, in every kind of season, they kind of sprinkle little scenes of a killer that was called the BTK killer. He was a notorious killer, and even though he's not a focus of the story, we're slowly building to him. So there's little scenes here and there we get of him murdering people or him doing this because we
Hmm.
know eventually we're leading to him. And I think that that could have been beneficial with this season, having Muse sprinkled in maybe from the very first episode and slowly build. But I don't know. I'm still intrigued to see how it's going to go.
I get that. Yeah, I get what you mean. I think if Muse is around, I would have wanted a little bit more presence from him. This feels like suddenly there's a Muse around, like he hasn't been in the previous, I guess, weeks or whatever, however long we've been watching that and for folks. But so yeah, just like a sense that there's someone going around abducting people, killing people. Oh, there's another one missing, and police is following up, or some idea that there's something going on in the background somewhere.
Mm. Yeah, no, exactly that. I think that it could have benefited from that. I mean,
Mm.
like, what was your thoughts overall of, the Fisk angle of this episode? What was your thoughts on what's happening here? 'Cause I think finally by the end of this episode, it's like both are back. Fisk finally is back, even though he's not showing exactly Vanessa that just yet, and or the public that just yet, and Matt is back. But what was your thoughts of Fisk throughout this episode? Great
Um,
performance still, by the way, from
oh
both of
yeah,
them.
yeah, absolutely. I did like the parallel since you mentioned that at the end. That Fisk has Adam locked up there, and while Matt is practicing, and we get those. Yeah, we get them both back, the Kingpin and slightly Daredevil. Um, but there's a sense that he still has this kind of darkness in him, but I kind of want a little bit more at this point. Again, it feels like it's moving a bit slower. And
Yeah.
like I get these what they're doing, I think, with the therapy as well, because this it is about, like they're saying, it is about forgiveness, and Adam, right? It is
Mm.
about the affair, and like he's sitting there and like discussing this thing. Meanwhile, he's got this guy locked up in a prison cell somewhere. Um, and so I get what the therapy angle is. They're trying to like get work through this,
Mm.
but they're not really sharing everything with each other. But yeah, it just needs to be a little bit faster for me.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's kind of weird though, because like while I also acknowledge and I definitely agree with your points in terms of it needs to be a bit faster, there was also a sense where by the end of this episode there was like still felt like I hadn't fully reached that trigger moment, especially with Matt, to actually go back to being Daredevil.
Hmm.
But I don't know if that's just a script and text thing. But I felt like by the time he actually, he's with his lady, the therapist, and then he wakes up during the night and starts training. There was kind of a sense of like I didn't feel that trigger moment that it's like I gotta put this mask back on now. Even though we had kind of been moving in that direction, it just felt like that true trigger hadn't come yet. Or like maybe it's just the way that they positioned the scenes or edited the scenes where it's like if it maybe came right after the discussion with Frank, or there was some build of showing him maybe looking at pictures of Foggy, or something, I don't know, just from like really finally being that trigger, to why you ultimately decided to wait till later on in the night after released your whatever you release, depending on who you are. And then after that decided that, now it's time to put the mask back on. But I mean, each to their own, each to their own. I suppose it does go like that you sometimes.
Let it go there.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Whew.
What was your thoughts on
I I see what you mean. Yeah, there wasn't. We had in the last episode, I think when he talks to Hector in the cell, and he's like debating whether there should be vigilantism, if that's the word. And we get the sense that he's like thinking of, do I need to be Daredevil? And here as well, like with the anger coming out with Frank, when he talks to Frank and he's like shoves him or hits him. So there's always this like there's a Daredevil underneath, and he's got this that piece of his horn with him. So there's always a presence of Daredevil. But that, yeah, like you said, that final shove of you need to get back to training, and a step away from actually becoming Daredevil again. That shift wasn't clear.
The final thing I'll say from me is, obviously your nickname being the caramel corn, alluding to the caramel corn guy. I did enjoy that scene, well, there was a couple scenes, but more so the final one where, once again, I think one thing that Daredevil has always done really well, and once again, Charlie Cox, such a great performer as well with that, is obviously, bringing up, the, crookish element, should we say, or the unfair element, should we say, of the legal justice system, and bringing up some really good points there that I felt like it's just very well done. I love when Daredevil does that and does it well, and I thought that scene was really nice.
I'm of two minds with that one. Like, it was a really interesting case. Like, I like the idea that you have a guy who's actually guilty of stealing caramel corn, whatever, but he wants probation, right? And this is immediately like an interesting case for Matt. Like, how is he going to swing that? And he kind of almost does, and he does a good job at like getting him down with the sentence. And I do appreciate like what they're trying to do with the character. I forgot his name, but that he's like, the system let him down and he's just trying to survive, and a little bit of a treat with those caramel corn things. And that's what gets him back into prison. Yeah, right. And that look at like the justice system, I suppose. Having said that, I'm like, who is this guy? Like, why are we spending so much time on his fucking caramel fucking corn
Yeah.
thing? When there's a Daredevil to be had and a Fisk
Yeah.
and this and like Muse is around. Like, why aren't we getting into that? And it felt like a bit of wasted time
Mm.
for me. And again, like, while the lawyer stuff is interesting, and it was actually written by a lawyer, David Feige, no relations. And you can tell that he knows his law stuff, right? And because there is a sense of realness, genuinity. Um, we're recording this at 1:45. Don't expect real
Yeah.
work from me at this point. But there is that sense that this is someone who knows, like, who's been a lawyer, who's been in this world and has argued cases before. And it's fun to see that, when someone is like capable of writing that. But this is a superhero show. This is not a law show, even though the superhero is a part-time lawyer. I want Daredevil. Ugh. Um, yeah, I want more of that and less of caramel core.
I mean, anything else finally you want to add, or is that the best way for us to go into our IC review score?
I think let's go to ices. They fit well with caramel corn.
I think so. I do think so. I mean, yeah, so I'm gonna go first here for our IC review score out of 10. I'm gonna give this episode a 7.5 out of 10. I still did really enjoy this episode. Like, I still really did. I was tempted to give it an 8, but I realized that would be more so a bias based on just my love for Daredevil. So I think the episode in general, I'm going to give it a 7.5, which I think is quite generous. Yeah, that's why I'm going to go. 7.5 ICs out of 10 for episode 4.
Okay, that's close to mine because I'm gonna go a little bit down. I'm gonna go with 7 out of 10 ICs.
Oh.
I really enjoyed a lot of this episode. The performances, some of the like the scene kind of with Frank and Matt. I love seeing those two together, and I think they're really good. But yeah, it was missing a lot of things that I wanted. So yeah, 7 out of 10 from me. Pick it up, guys. Pick it up.
Pick it up. Come on, David. Work your magic, as we know you can in the court of justice, apparently. Credit to him. So that will do it for our review of episode 4 of Daredevil Born Again on Disney Plus. Once again, we are No Drama Just Movies. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Drop down in that comment section below. Let us know your thoughts on this episode. Like, share, comment, do the full shebang, whether you have any hearing or visual impairments or not, because that's what Matt would want you to do, and that's what we ideally would like you to do. Anyway, if that even makes sense. Once again, we are No Drama Just Movies. My name is Cameron. Clearly, bald guys are not Vanessa's type. Kelly Smith, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague here.
We also didn't explain that one. Um, Phil, caramel corn Corwin.
Oh, that's right. Somebody deliver some caramel corn to good old Adam because I'm sure he's indeed going to need it behind that. So, once again, we are No Drama Just Movies. Thank you very much for checking out our review today, guys. And we will see you very, very soon next week. Take care, guys.
I